Hello YouTube, it's the Magnum94 here, back with another stupid Nintendo article. Now, in reality, this article isn't really all that bad. I just wanted an excuse to talk about the Jimmy Fallon Switch presentation. But this article does make a few points that I question, and I just want to give my opinion on some things that he was negative towards. So yeah, let's get started. Was Jimmy Fallon's Switch showing a bust? And again, that title isn't all that bad. It's a fair point. Like, was it? Because this is the first time we've ever really seen the Switch in action. Because when it was on the Switch reveal trailer, all of those videos were just superimposed on in post. No one was actually playing the Switch. So it's fair to question, like, was the first time actually seeing the Switch being played alive, was it underwhelming? And that's a fair point. So, and then I'm reading this article about a week after the show. So, last week, Reggie Fils-Aimé and Shigeru Miyamoto visited The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. While many thought this would only be about Super Mario Run, me included, which is why I didn't even bother watching it. It actually took me like until 2 days later to even know that the Switch was shown there. Then I got all excited, but still. Which will be Nintendo's first mobile game. Nintendo doesn't count. Does it though? I mean, sure, it wasn't a game in the sense that Mario Run or an Animal Crossing or Fire Emblem game is a game, or even to the extent that Pokemon Go is a game, but it still counts. It's still a Nintendo idea on a mobile game. But regardless, it ended up being more than that. It was also the TV debut of the Nintendo Switch. While Super Mario Run showed very well, the Switch didn't really shine the way you'd expect it to. Or at least the way the writer expected it to. I'll get more into that in a bit. Nintendo had an opportunity to really show us what this new system could do and how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild would look on it. Instead, it spent over 5 minutes telling us what it was like and what we should think. That's just kind of Jimmy Fallon's style. Whenever he has special guests on, or like special reveals or whatever, like movie trailers or whatnot, he overreacts a lot. That's his thing. He gets very overly excited. He just kind of rambles on about how much he's excited about it, how much he knows, and that's just his style. And I felt like it really worked with the system. Having essentially what Nintendo wanted to do was show this system off to a crowd of people who probably had never even heard of what the NX was before the Switch was announced. Because the Switch reveal trailer, that was very much so for the gamer. But bring it on a show like Jimmy Fallon, a show that just random people watch nightly, I feel like bringing it to a person who clearly is a game, or at least to an extent is a gamer, and who gets overly excited, I felt like Nintendo showing it to this guy was a smart move. Because a lot of the people in the crowd and people watching, maybe they had never heard of the Switch. So their first introduction to the Switch being one of their favorite TV personalities getting all excited over this thing, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I felt like it did its job well. So let's continue. To start, the Nintendo Switch segment of the presentation only began at the 5-minute mark of the under 10-minute video. While that seemed like it would be almost half of the segment dedicated to the Switch, time wasn't used effectively. So first of all, we had no reason to believe that the Switch was even going to be there. Reggie Fils-Aimé went there supposedly to show Super Mario Run. And we got the Switch stuff as a gift towards the end. So saying that the time wasn't, that they didn't use time effectively is kind of irrelevant, because we got the time that was given was more than technically what we should have gotten, if you catch my drift. Especially since Nintendo said that there would be no new information on the Switch until January. So having some time period is better than what we should have gotten. So, yeah. 1 minute was wasted with Fallon only expressing enthusiasm for how cool the Switch is and how much he wanted one. Again, having this famous TV personality expressing excitement, enthusiasm towards the system that most of the people in the crowd or audience didn't know existed beforehand is not a bad thing, especially if Nintendo wants the system to sell right out of the gate. Nintendo needs good mind share of this system beforehand, because the main issue with the Wii U was that the majority of the people worldwide didn't even know what it was. They thought it was like a peripheral to the Wii, or some weird thing that, like, people, if you ask people, oh, what is a Wii U, no one would know what that is. So showing it on a platform like this, I think it worked. Now we'll have to wait until March to really find out, but I really think that this was a smart move. We don't actually start seeing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild running on the system until the 6-minute mark, which that is true. I guess we could have seen a little more of the game, but at the same time, Reggie Fils-Aimé took the Switch to Jimmy Fallon to show off what the system could do. He wanted to show off what it looked like, especially show off the logo, just the design of it. So he didn't bring the system to Jimmy Fallon for gamers, because, again, he went there to show Mario Run. Most gamers don't necessarily really care about Super Mario Run. They're probably going to end up getting it, but they don't need any more information about the game. They already know, oh, Mario on a smartphone. At this point, they're going to get it or they're not. So not showing games at the Switch showing at Jimmy Fallon wasn't necessarily the priority. It was more so just get the Switch brand, the idea of what the system is, in the mind share of the crowd and of the audience of Jimmy Fallon's show, and therefore to the masses of those, because something like this people would be talking about. They might not necessarily know everything about the system, but like they could like mention it at the dinner table, and one of their children or like a cousin or someone who knows about gaming could like explain it to them. That's basically what the goal of this was. So let's continue. But hey, 4 minutes of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch is enough time to really show how great the game looks on the console, right? Well, it would be if we actually got 4 minutes. Instead, we only see the game on the screen from the 6 minute to 7 minute and 25 second mark. Fils-Aimé pushes the boulder off a ramp into a horde of bokoblins. We see an explosion, but don't journey down into their now cleared camp. Instead, Fils-Aimé goes the other way to an open expanse and begins the next part of the spiel. Now, he may think that like this wasn't necessarily the best way to show off the game, which is understandable just from a viewer perspective, from a gamer's perspective, viewing the show and wanting to see more of the Switch gameplay. And I initially thought so as well, until I thought about it. The main complaint of Breath of the Wild running on the Wii U was that the frame rate dropped significantly when a bunch of enemies were on screen, especially when explosions happened. So yeah, the frame rate can just be finicky at times. So I believe that Fils-Aimé specifically positioned the demo to start with Link pushing that boulder off that cliff, in order to show that there is no slowdown when explosions happen and when a bunch of enemies are on the screen. I think that's really smart, because, like I said, with many people being down on the Wii U version, And the only real reason for that is that they don't like the fact that the frame rate can be iffy, showing that there's no slowdown at all when big explosions happen. It's really smart for the gamers that are watching. And also, maybe some of the people in the crowd or in the audience or people watching on their TV, maybe they had seen, maybe they had played Zelda games in the past, maybe on the N64 or even before then. So, because of this, they know about what Legend of Zelda is, but they've never seen Link push a boulder up and explode an entire camp of bokoblins. They've never been able to walk out into a giant field and go anywhere. Now, if they played Ocarina of Time, they had a pretty similar experience with the Hyrule Field, but at the same time, it's not nearly as expansive as what Reggie was describing. Anywhere you can see, you can go. Which I hope that turns out to be true, because that basically seems to be the main thing they're pushing this game with. If that's not true, that's just straight up false advertising. But anyway, let's continue. At that point, Visa May takes the Switch out of the dock and gives it to Fallon to show how it goes from console to handheld. We see a bit of it in Fallon's hand and popped out on a table, but don't really get a good, clear look at how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild looks on the go on the Switch. We see some off-screen footage from the 7-minute, 50-second mark, but Fallon barely plays the game. He moves the analog stick a bit, then adjusts Link's position and the camera view, and slashes at a couple of bokoblins, but isn't like we're really seeing the Switch's handheld form in action. What more exactly did you want to see? He was playing the game on the handheld. It looked really good on the handheld. It didn't seem to take a graphical hit from the big screen down to the handheld part. So I'm not entirely sure what more you wanted. Maybe, and also he did the whole the shield sled thing down the side of the cliff, which I'm actually kind of surprised he knew what that was. And that's another cool thing that you can only do in this game that a lot of people in the crowd thought might have played Ocarina of Time and like, oh, I couldn't do that in this game. That's something cool to try out in the new game. But essentially, Jimmy Fallon did all the marketing for Reggie when he was gushing about how awesome this thing was. Reggie didn't tell him, didn't have to mention anything about the Joy-Con clicking out or the stand or just pretty much Jimmy Fallon gushed about all the features that Reggie was probably going to talk about anyway. So I kind of feel like, again, with Jimmy Fallon being the one talking about these things, I feel like people in the audience have a stronger connection to this system now. If it was just Reggie presenting this to the audience, I feel like a lot of them might have gotten kind of bored, maybe, or lost interest. But since one of their favorite TV personalities is gushing about this thing, it makes a stronger connection in their mind with it. So yeah. The entire Switch, The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, appears with a clear case of telling without showing. Visa May told us what the Switch could do and what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was like. Fallon told us how much he wanted the game in the system, as well as how cool he thought it was. But those are only words. The TV debut of the system needed to show us firsthand how good it was. We needed to see actions. And again, I feel like it did enough for that crowd. If this was if this is how they showed off the presentation during a Nintendo Direct or during the January 12th event, if this is all they showed during a gaming-centric event, then I would be so disappointed in this. But since it is for this crowd of mostly non-gamers, people who are mostly ignorant of what this thing was before it was revealed to them just now, more than likely, it did its job well enough. You did get to see games running on the system. You did get to see its multiple form factors. you got to see the different ways of play. I just feel you got to see, for the people who do know what this is, you did get to see how Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild runs better on the Switch than it does on the Wii U. I honestly feel like it works. Now, that could just be me, and I understand where... Oh, Jenny Lotta is actually a girl. I understand where Jenny's coming from. Like, yes, she's a big gamer, so she expected more. But, and to an extent, I can understand that. It's a big deal to be really seeing the Switch being presented to the masses for the first time. But, again, this presentation was not for her. It was not for me. Like, we already knew what this thing was. We were expecting more. The people in the crowd, they weren't expecting anything. So, yeah, I'll just continue. I'll finish this off. This doesn't mean the Switch is doomed or it won't be a good system. I'm super excited about this console handheld hybrid. It just feels like Nintendo had an opportunity to make a real splash with the Switch's first TV appearance. Instead of really showing us a great look at the system, there was a lot of talking at us. Let's hope that in the future, we get to see more of it in action rather than hear more things we already know. And again, I understand that point completely. Like, it seems a bit of a slap in the face to gamers just to have Jimmy Fallon telling people, oh, I already know all this stuff about, like, he was gushing about all the stuff that we already knew, that he already knew. So nothing necessarily new was there for us, which is understandable. But again, this presentation wasn't for us. And this is essentially, what they did here was show people what the Switch was to people who didn't know what the Switch already was. And also to tie people over until the January 12th event. So showing it here got some people in the crowd interested in it, so that way when they heard that, oh, Nintendo's holding this event on the 12th of January, maybe I'll tune into that. So it's very much so that whole blue ocean strategy that they were touting with the Wii and DS, and kind of tried with the Wii U but failed. Like, connecting to the masses more so than to the gamers, I feel like is the right play for a system like this, at least right now. If they do go into the Switch presentation on January 12th and do something similar, then yes, that would be a major mistake. But I have high hopes that they're not going to do something like that. Nintendo's aware of who their target audience is, especially those in Japan. Like, Japan, it kind of seems like Japan is much more, the gamers are much more, like, not really hardcore, but like there seems to be more of them who understand like what gaming is. There's a more concentrated amount of people in Japan who know what gaming is. So since it's being presented in Japan in Japanese, I feel like it'll be much more games and content and hardware specs and whatnot. Like it'll be a much more so a presentation for the gamer. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on this article and the Jimmy Fallon presentation. I felt like it was a fine showing. It could have been a little better. I mean, yeah, but that's not what it was there for. So, yeah, if you have any more thoughts in the comment section about this, if you agree with Jenny that the Jimmy Fallon presentation wasn't the best, then please explain yourself in the comment section. I want to have a conversation going. If you agree with me and that you feel like it did its job well, I want to hear your opinions on that too. And just give your thoughts about what you're excited for about the January 12th presentation as well. I'm curious what like launch lineup games you guys are thinking there's going to be, like what the specs are, what third-party games are going to be. So yeah, just stuff like that. So yeah, until next time, see ya.